Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. And hopefully we'll have a little bit of a fun last talk for you to close out the day today. So to start with a question, raise your hand if your team's business objectives have ever been super clear, but the technical implementation was an absolute mess. Anyone? Not too many hands. And honestly, I got to play to my audience, so we'll change that a little bit. Raise your hand if your technical implementation has been perfect, but the business goals just weren't quite aligned. Couple more hands. That's good. Awesome. So McKinsey says that basically 70% of digital transformations fail due to a disconnect between technology vision and business objectives. This was a wake-up call for us that GraphQL alone isn't enough without aligning the transition with true business value. So we knew that we needed to dig deeper and find out exactly why the business would benefit from GraphQL. But the real question becomes, how do we avoid falling into that 70% and instead become part of that successful 30%? Overall, in the end, we embraced GraphQL at AlphaSense. We didn't just streamline our APIs, but we unlocked millions in savings by accelerating our product development timelines and millions in new product revenue by launching an external variant of our graph. I'm Brian Lagarth, the API product manager at AlphaSense, and over the last few years, I've helped our organization embrace GraphQL and launch a new API product, growing it from 0 in revenue to millions, and in this case, over 14 million. Just like every PM, I take way more credit than I probably deserve, and the true heroes are the amazing engineers at AlphaSense that I get to work with every day. So there are some over there, my amazing team. Our team brings together talent from across the world, and I could not be prouder of the work that they've done to drive GraphQL at AlphaSense and deliver platform improvements and a brand new product. It's amazing when you see people from 7 different countries come together to achieve a common goal. Yet, I'm the only one that is hesitant about a team bonding session at a sauna. So you gotta love the Finnish culture there. Today, I'll walk you through our GraphQL journey, covering 3 key steps: convincing management, transforming our APIs, and reaping the benefits. At the end of this, you should be empowered to align the business and tech goals and be part of that successful 30%. So first, let's talk about convincing management. I want you to understand the importance of translating all of the powerful features in GraphQL to something that truly makes sense to our leadership. And to learn this, you got to learn a little bit more about AlphaSense as a company. So quickly going over that, AlphaSense is a market research solution that empowers business leaders to make decisions faster and more confidently. With over $1 billion in total funding, we employ a global team with engineering offices in Helsinki, hence the sauna sessions, Pune, Delhi, Ireland, Vancouver, and in New York City. This large-scale diversity presents us with an amazing opportunity as a startup to have engineering talent building AlphaSense around the globe. Diving a little bit more into our business, countless million-dollar decisions are made every single day based off poor information. Our customers find it cumbersome and unreliable to locate data in internal and external silos, and overwhelming to process information due to massive volume and constantly changing spaces. AlphaSense is on a mission to make the research process smooth for all knowledge professionals and deliver our insights seamlessly to all personas. All that being said, growth is the most important aspect of our business, And as a startup, it's important to obsess over rapid innovation. And with that, that'll conclude my little pitch of AlphaSense that the sales team said I had to include. So back to the topic about convincing management, lecturing our leadership about different features that GraphQL has, like a strongly typed schema or precise data fetching, doesn't really move the needle for them. We started our investigation by diving deep into customer feedback and performance metrics, and we discovered that our existing APIs were hindering scalability and impacting our overall user experience. Our current tech infrastructure was making it more difficult to deliver those insights that were so important to our clients. But we still had to go below the surface and identify what opportunities would push leadership over the edge to invest in a large infrastructure transformation at AlphaSense. So GraphQL has a way of streamlining how teams deliver products, allowing them to work independently, helping them move faster by simplifying data access and keeping things flexible. It supports growth naturally, allowing platforms to scale without unnecessary complexity, making it easier to adapt as demand changes. But everyone already knows that. And in this case, you know how every single chef has a special secret sauce that pulls together their signature dish? Well, at AlphaSense, our secret sauce was the launch of a brand new external product that showed direct ROI almost immediately, helping prove out the value of GraphQL. So we dove into our customer conversations, wanting to learn more about things like product delivery and scalability. So we continued to ask them what would make it better, what would make our platform better. But instead of mentioning any of those, they mentioned extensibility. So getting our product into their internal CRM or our product into their internal platform. And we even had one client that asked us if they could include AlphaSense snippets in their Robinhood app. GraphQL has a very unique way of exposing our schema to clients that allows us to switch on and off a feature with schema contracts with very little effort. And so it made bringing out this new product very easy. So how many of you guys have ever dug into your APIs and tried to figure out what the heck it does? And maybe that's because there's no documentation, or maybe the engineer had already left and with it all of the knowledge. Anyone here? So one day in Finland, it was super dark outside, and side note, it gets dark at 4 o'clock in the winter, so it wasn't super late or anything. But anyways, one of my engineers and I were looking through our schema, and since we started designing everything with the external user in mind, we were able to figure it out super easily, even after the engineer that built it had left. And so with that documentation, it just made it so much easier to continue developing on it. And selfishly, it allowed any non-technical product manager to hop into the schema and fully understand what everything does, truly increasing the internal transparency of our graph. So focusing on direct and quick ROI in connection with long-term savings, we've been able to prove to leadership that in essence, GraphQL is not just a technical upgrade, it's a catalyst that accelerates business growth and innovation. And if you take anything away from this section, know that when you align the business, the technology, and the customer vision into one narrative, you have an extremely strong argument. So now that we've talked about convincing management, let's dive into how we took it upon ourselves to transform our APIs. Our previous API landscape was a tangled web requiring coordination across multiple teams for even minor little changes. And Algun and I, no matter how much time or how many Coke Zeros we sat up and drank, we couldn't really figure out how to piece everything together. And a quote here, it was just an absolute maze of permissions to really get anything done in our previous architecture. So this maze is really a visualization of how I felt trying to understand our prior APIs before switching over to GraphQL. How long do you think it took to understand and complete this maze? Anyone know? Exactly. It was never ending. There's no beginning, there's no end. We couldn't figure out how to do all the APIs and had to basically restart when we switched over to GraphQL. So as we went through this transition, we saw a couple of entities that continued to come up in different ways. And we had a whole bunch of different APIs like get companies, get company profiles, get company entities, and it was just all looking for the exact same thing. So our platform was perfectly aligned with GraphQL, where we could reduce those replicated object types, and we found the three most common ones that you can see here: user, company, and document. These three entities really encapsulate 80% of the information on AlphaSense, and so doing these right significantly simplified the complexity of our API maze, making it easier for anyone to understand. Can anyone enlighten me on what an engineer's favorite thing to work on is? Nothing. Well, no one said internal developer tools. So I can assure you that's not at the top of the list for PMs. And now that we had switched over to GraphQL and we've started using Apollo, we had all of these built-in tools that made delivering this API product so much easier. We didn't have to worry about developing analytics that could tell us exactly which clients are calling which APIs and all of the different statistics around it. It was already built in. And we also didn't have to do anything to kind of fix the infrastructure if we wanted to deploy these APIs out to people. We just had to change the schema contract that I'll go into in a second. So we got all of our developers off of working on internal products, and we're able to work on things that actually help the customer. So every technical decision that was measured, we measured it against its impact to the customer. This alignment ensured that improvements to our API directly translated to enhanced user experiences, either for our internal developers or for these external users. And since we designed with the client in mind, it's led to better documentation, faster onboarding of new developers, and higher client and developer satisfaction. So overall, a huge improvement for us. And if you only remember one thing from this section, remember that if you make every decision with the client in mind, everyone will be happier in the long run. Now that we've discussed how we transformed our APIs, let's dive into the benefits that this has provided us as an API team and an organization as a whole. So post-implementation, our teams have been able to ship independently of each other, embracing acting in silos. We've achieved a 20 to 40% reduction in time to market for new features, and sometimes being able to ship features in hours instead of days. On top of that, we've delivered a brand new product that has achieved millions in revenue. And when your engineering team switches from being a cost center to a cash cow, leadership starts giving you a little bit more breathing room. And as a PM, I've been able to reduce the amount of times I've asked, when will that be done? Or why can't we finish that in time? So overall, the developers are happier as well. Did anyone in here take a class in college that they absolutely hated? It wasn't their class? We got a couple, yeah. A couple over here. So for me, I went to a liberal arts school, and on top of all the CS classes I took, I had to take an arts class. And supposedly, the easiest one was one called Worlds of Music. And that would have been great, it would have been easy, but I'm basically tone deaf, so it was by far the worst grade I achieved at school. To relate that back to here, when we think of the work that our developers do, no one does well in an area that they aren't passionate about. I wasn't passionate about music, I wasn't good at music either. And so since we've made this big transformation and we've delivered a new product and we've gotten more breathing room from leadership, our team has had the flexibility to really work on what they want. So if they want to focus on the platform and cut off milliseconds to our response time, they're free to do that. If they want to work on delivering new features for clients and being in front of them a lot more often, they can do that as well. And the transformation has really given a plethora of opportunities for our engineers to figure out what's really important to them. So going back to the schema contracts earlier, this feature alone has saved us so much time. We're able to enable new features with the change of a tag, so in this case, just external API. And so when one of our feature teams rolled out a new image search, we were able to seamlessly integrate it into our API suite. Clients are notified immediately on our developer portal of new features, and the schema can be seen right away in GraphQL. And all it takes is that little switch of a name tag there. Within days, we've had API clients actively using new features, which doesn't really happen too often with a brand new product. And this has allowed us to be hands-off in the feature development process and really dive into last-minute delivery and user experience. So in closing, I'll take you back to the original question. Have you ever faced a time where the business goals and technical vision did not align? By aligning those two and adding in customer needs, GraphQL didn't just improve our technology infrastructure, it transformed our entire approach to delivering value, unlocking millions in savings and millions in revenue. Once again, I'm Brian Lagarth. If you're interested in joining our innovative team, visit our careers page or connect with me on LinkedIn. Thank you.